What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about XRP today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, all right? We've got some interesting perspectives to talk about. I was going to say prospects. Interesting prospects, too, but perspectives, I think, to go over in this video. It really puts things in perspective for why XRP is a pretty solid choice as an investment in this crypto bull market. Okay, but we're gonna start off with just the same old stuff, do some TA, and then work into the chart that I think is really interesting. Okay, so looking at this on a monthly basis, first and foremost, your monthly MACD is bullishly postured. Okay, oftentimes in any bull market that you've seen, you do get these drives of bullish momentum. Let me just explain this for those of you who don't know what the MACD is. So moving average convergence divergence. That's what it means. Is MACD, moving average convergence divergence oscillator, right? So these lines here, the blue line and the orange line, and you can't really see it, but the orange line's over here, they oscillate between each other. When the blue line is on top, you're promoting green readings. When the blue line is on bottom, you promote red readings. When the blue line is getting away, whenever it's diverging away from the orange line, you're building bearish momentum. Whenever the orange line's catching up to the blue line, or the blue line starts to move toward the orange line, you're still beneath it, so you still have bearish momentum in there, but it's not building, it's decaying. Okay, same thing with the green. Whenever it's moving away, when the blue line's moving away, that's bullish momentum building. Whenever they're getting closer to each other, maybe this is still moving up, but the red line's catching it, you lose that momentum. You're still bullishly postured, but negative momentum. Okay, this is not the chart I was talking about, but this is, again, it's a little different than we normally talk about. Monthly time frames, weekly time frames, and daily time frames are the most useful for the MACD. It's not really useful on shorter term time frames, just so you're aware. What I want to address, because we're on the all-time history of XRP here, is that the very first bull cycle you built momentum, and then it decayed, and then you built momentum, and then it decayed, and then you built momentum. Okay, and that all started right here, right? When you started building this momentum on the histogram, that was with this move, and then it decayed, then you built some momentum, and then once you really got that going, you had one final push that took you to your all-time highs. Last cycle, you built some bullish momentum, and then it kind of died off for a second, and then you started to build it again, right? Built some bullish momentum down here in the MACD, built it right here. It died off a little bit, and then when you built it again, that was your all-time high. That was your cycle-ending finale. Here, we've only built bullish momentum once, or maybe even twice, technically, if we really look at it here, technically from down here, or even back down here. Let's see, but that's not really like bull market stuff, right? That was still, you were figuring things out. I would say while your bear market ended back in June of 2022, your bull market didn't really start until November 2024. That's when I think your bull market really began, was back over here, and I think that the histogram explains that very well, right? Very high up on the oscillators, right? That doesn't mean anything. Like, you can see higher. Sometimes you just get bigger and badder on the histograms, or deeper and sadder on the histograms and on the oscillators. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're overbought or anything like that. So don't think like that. It's different than the RSI. The RSI too, however, has on its first cycle gotten overbought, and then came out of the overbought zone, and then came back up into the overbought zone. Again, showing a similarity with building bullish momentum, letting it decay, and then finishing off with one last kind of push up, right? Same kind of thing here can be seen in the RSI. Last cycle, we did the same thing. You got overbought barely, and it was a lot weaker reading, so it was a lot weaker of a cycle. You were in a consolidation phase for multiple cycles. We just didn't know it at the time. And then yet again, you came out of the overbought zone, then pushed back into it. Well, you're doing the same thing here. You've decayed down into out of your overbought area, and now you're in a position where, just like this first cycle, you could pump back into it. And we all remember how miraculous of a pump that was. You moved up 746% in 1 month. Unlike this last cycle, I don't expect when you pump up from here that's going to be it. I don't think you have one more month and then your cycle's over. That's not what I'm expecting. But not like last cycle, but 2 cycles ago, I think that this implicates that you have more to go, right? You have more to go. It doesn't stop here. That's the purpose of it. That's why we're talking about the long-term stuff, okay? The stochastics have cooled off a little bit, and oftentimes too, you get overbought, come back to the 50, get overbought again, come back to the 50, and then you hit the overbought zone. This time you didn't even actually get into the overbought zone, you rejected it, and then you went down. Here, the stochastics, they're a bit of a momentum oscillator too, momentum indicator. Essentially, they oscillate between the overbought zone and the oversold zone. You don't really see moments like this where you find resistance at the 50. It's kind of like the RSI, but not so much like the RSI in the way that it goes from a 100 to a 0, but it's a different indicator altogether, right? They have different calculations, but still, overbought, out of the overbought zone, overbought, out of the overbought zone, tipped the overbought zone for your cycle ending finale. Tipped it here, all the way to the oversold zone, tipped it here, cycle ending finale right there. Here you got into it, you've gotten out of it, you haven't even gotten back into it once. The very first cycle you did this like 2 or 3 times. So, and last cycle you did it twice. So I would at least expect they have one more push up in you, and I don't think that it's going to be a 1 month push. I think it would be a multi-month push, but I think that you have really, I think that you do have 2 more pushes to go. But all these long-term monthly indicators are very bullish. They're postured in a very phenomenal way. It does not exclude or does not absolve you of going lower, right, in the immediate term. But it certainly does not absolve this bull cycle from being done. You have more to go. Absolutely you do, okay? Now with the good stuff out of the way, let's talk about the not so good stuff, okay? Let's talk about the stuff nobody wants to hear. We're going down. We're going down to Chinatown, man. Here we are. Looking at the price, I know that there's a lot of indicators here, so I'll try to help make sense out of it. You do have bullish divergence building on the MACD, which I think is phenomenal. You also have bullish divergence building on your daily RSI, which is also phenomenal. Bullish divergences tend to be something that you can get, you get one bullish, you get a drive there, that's one drive. You can get 2 drives. You could also even get 3 drives, but once you get more than 3 drives, it tends to not be something that's so reliable, right? On the MACD here, if we look at this low here in the histogram, and it's as simple as this. You can get divergence on your oscillators, and you are getting that kind of, or are you getting that right now? You do have divergence on the oscillators, but with the histograms, with the bars here, low here, higher low, you're building bearish momentum each time that you phase down, right? Your oscillators are getting lower too, but you're decaying in how much momentum you see to the downside. So I would expect with this, you do have double bullish divergence because that's 1 drive, that's 2 drives there. I would expect that you get 1 more drive of bullish divergence, 1 more push down that will see bullish or bearish momentum building. But I don't expect you to close the histogram lower than this. If you do, that's okay. You get rid of your bullish divergence, and that's not the end of the world, whatever. Sometimes you get rid of your bullish divergence, and as soon as you do, that's whenever you pump, right? You don't need bullish divergence to pump, but it is a nice setup that you have now. So to keep that setup going, I am anticipating, and looking at the RSI, by the way, I am anticipating that we go down 1 more step here. For XRP, I would assume we drop anything from about 11%, tip for tat with Bitcoin, 11 to 12%, to maybe we go down to this low at about a 16% drop or even just below there. I would think if we look at XRP versus BTC, if we can compare it here, we can get a better estimate of that. And I know I did this yesterday, but I'm forgetting. XRP versus BTC looks pretty damn bullish, actually. Daily RSI also looks pretty bullish, to be completely fair. But again, I remember, you're in this relatively small uptrend here, but you're in a prevailing downtrend. So contradictions are abundant, right? You could go lower, you could go higher. It's hard to say. If I had to guess, if we're looking at this XRP to Bitcoin chart, low to high, you're at your 0.5. I say oftentimes you don't find significance at your 0.5, but when you do, it is significant. That's kind of what I've liked to say. You also find resistance here at the prior areas of resistance, prior areas of support, prior areas of resistance. You might not go higher, but if you do, this could change things. If not, I think what you're going to do, I'm going to lean toward the downside here, okay? I'm going to lean toward the notion that Bitcoin outperforms XRP on this drop. That just means that it drops less, or that XRP, maybe, I don't think they're both going to pump. I think they're both going to drop. XRP probably drops more than Bitcoin, and that if that happens, we'd see this chart drop as well. Assuming that you're at the 0.5 and you're holding above the 382, I would think you go all the way back down to your 236. That is about a 5% drop. Let's even say it's a little bit less than 5% drop. So if Bitcoin drops about 11%, 12%, I would see XRP dropping less than 20%. Okay, good. So you probably don't. Is that right? Is that right, though? Because I really thought, am I looking at the right fibs? I really thought that you drop lower, and you could drop lower. Maybe that's not the right fib to go off of. I don't want to take the February 3rd fib. I think that one's weird. Let me look at this in a different light and just make sure that I'm getting this right, because I don't want to do this the wrong way. Hold on. Low to high. And what was I saying before? Yeah. I mean, yeah, man. Okay, all right, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I was talking about XRP going to $1.60, and it's possible. Okay, prepare yourselves. If XRP was to drop down to $1.60, that's about a 30% drop. I could see it happening, and of course, it could drop lower. For some reason, I feel like this was my call, Maybe I just addressed it and I'm remembering it wrong, but if I had to be honest with you now, at least from what I'm seeing in the charts, what I believe I'm seeing in the charts, I don't think you go below this low. For some reason, I feel like I called for you to go below that low, but maybe I just mentioned it and that wasn't my call. I can't remember what my call was, man. So many damn calls every day for various things. But if I had to be honest with you and be honest with myself, I don't see you dropping more than 20%. Something below this low, yes, but something that probably is still upheld above that low. So probably around $1.80, $1.81, $1.91. That, you know, anything. It could be a double bottom right here, but something lower nonetheless. Okay, over the coming days, I'm expecting it to happen. Actually, it might happen over the weekend. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, but here's the cool thing. Here's the cool thing about XRP, right? While it's been boring, I'm sure the XRP community is not bored right now. I'm sure you guys are ready for the next phase up, but you're probably still on top of the world, being that you've had the boring times already. Now you're just in this consolidation phase. It's not boring, right? But even though it's been boring since December, this is the chart that I was really excited about, was comparing this to the XRP others chart, right? So this chart is XRP compared to the average altcoin, okay? The average altcoin outside of the top 10. When this chart goes up, it means one of two things. Either the market is dropping and XRP is dropping less than the market, or most of the time, the market is pumping, but XRP, or I shouldn't even say most of the time, but there's a good bit of the time, the market is pumping, but XRP is outperforming the average participant in the market, okay? Since November, XRP has been, if you look at the price, and this is where I thought the connection was really cool, this is where the perspective is really cool for anybody getting bored or worried about XRP, you're doing so much better than the rest of the market. This is what your US dollar price looks like, and then boring. This is what your XRP versus everything price looks like. You've just been moving up. And if you've been moving up while the price has been moving sideways, that means everything else is dumping. You are in a quote unquote safe haven here, right? This is a nice asset to be in when the markets are a little bit dicey. Now, I would assume nothing moves up in a straight line forever. I would assume on this next run up, the average coin in the market probably outperform. Well, I don't even know actually if it outperforms XRP, to be completely fair. I think this next move, XRP still will actually outperform the average market participant, to be fair. But I think the average market participant might stand to outperform XRP by the end of the cycle. XRP is in a really good position, you guys, where if you were to go to 27 bucks, you're going to underperform the average coin. But if you do go to something of about like 40 bucks or higher, you stand a chance to keep on par with the average market participant. But all I'm trying to say is through this drop, I would expect XRP holds up better, right? Comparing it to the XRP BTC chart, XRP USD chart, it all checks out because the average coin is going to drop 20 to 30%. I don't think that you're going to even drop 20%, so that checks out. But just this perspective again, right? If anybody's getting discouraged by XRP, just understand nobody is in the right crypto. Nothing right now is going up, right? The only thing going up is your valuation versus everything else, and that's because while you've been moving sideways, the rest of the market has been dumping. And I thought that was an interesting perspective there because it can really make you appreciate even the boring times whenever you realize that everybody else is actually suffering a lot more than you. This thing could not move up while it's being boring unless the rest of the market is dumping. That's literally the only way that it can happen. So I got nothing else for you guys. I hope you took something away from this video. I hope that it was helpful, entertaining, informative, whatever. Hit the like button if it was. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I really appreciate you all for being here. Take care of yourselves, okay? Take care of your mothers. Take care of your brothers. Take care of all the people that you love and cherish. Let them know that you love and cherish them, right? They might know that, but they should. There's nothing wrong with telling them that, all right? Some people think that you have to, that saying I love you or saying that you love somebody too much can belittle it. But the thing is about love, you guys, it's not something that you can belittle. You can say it as much as you want, and if it is love, it'll mean just as much the 100th time you say it in a day as it means the first time that you say it in a day. You know what I mean? That's how love works. So don't be afraid. Get out there. Love somebody. Hug somebody. Drink some water also. And if you are on medication, hopefully it's helpful, because if it's not, maybe you should get off your medication. I don't know, man. Drugs are not good for you. I'm just feeling like talking apparently. So I'm going to end the video there. Hit the like button, subscribe, get off your meds. All right, bye-bye.